Welcome to the Concierge Care Health System podcast. The information shared in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should be aware the content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a physician or other qualified healthcare provider for medical questions.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the show that takes those huge stacks of information and really boils them down for you, bringing you the key insights and hopefully some surprising facts.
Absolutely. We do the digging so you get the core ideas.
And today, oh boy, we are diving into something huge. It's manifesting. I mean, you really can't escape it, can you?
No, it's everywhere. Social media feeds, celebrity endorsements, books flooding the shelves, even popping up in corporate wellness sometime.
Exactly. And it's this really captivating idea, isn't it? That your thoughts, just your thoughts alone, can literally shape your reality, bring you wealth, health, love, whatever you focus on.
And the stories people tell. They can be incredibly powerful, very compelling accounts of perceived success. It's easy to see the appeal.
It really is.
Yeah.
Which brings us right to the core question we want to tackle in this deep dive. Is this some kind of, actual magic? Is reality bendable like that?
Or is there a solid scientific explanation for why people feel it works so effectively for them? What's happening beneath the surface?
That's exactly our mission today. We're going to take a really comprehensive look at manifesting and the whole belief system behind it, the law of attraction, you might hear it, called LOE.
And we're coming at this specifically through a scientific lens, looking at the neurobiology, the psychology.
Right. We want to figure out if its power, the perceived power, comes from some mystical force out there or from well-established principles about how our own minds and brains work.
The goal here is to give you a shortcut, really, to being properly informed about this massive cultural phenomenon and maybe reveal some surprising things about how your own mind operates along the way.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Defining manifesting. What does it actually claim to be?
Well, at its heart, manifesting is presented as this active practice. It involves using really focused thought, intense belief, and getting your emotions aligned.
Aligned with what you want.
Exactly. Aligned with the desired goal or outcome. The idea is to turn an idea, something purely mental, into tangible reality.
So it's about aligning your whole mindset, visualizing the future you want, using techniques, but also taking action, right? It's not just sitting and thinking.
Proponents usually say you need to take inspired action, yes. But the driving force, the foundation underneath it all, is the law of attraction, LOE.
And its main tagline is,
Like attracts like. That's the big one. The core premise is that everything in the universe, including you, including your thoughts, is pure energy.
Energy vibrating at different frequencies.
Precisely. And so the law states that positive thoughts, vibrating at a certain frequency, will attract positive experiences, wealth, health, good relationships.
While negative thoughts attract the opposite, poverty, illness, bad luck.
Correct. So the key technique, according to LOE, is achieving what they call vibrational alignment.
Which means?
Consciously managing your thoughts and feelings. Specifically, getting yourself to feel as though your desired outcome has already happened.
The feeling of the wish-fulfilled idea.
That's the one. It really positions itself as a mind over matter doctrine. Your internal state dictates your external reality.
Now, this feels very 21st century, very now, but you mentioned it has older roots.
Oh, absolutely. It's not new at all. You can find traces of similar ideas going way back. Ancient Egypt, Greece, maybe even echoes in Plato's theory of forms, depending on how you interpret it.
Okay, but maybe more directly.
Its most direct ancestor, especially in the West, is the 19th century American New Thought movement. Figures like Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, he had this mind cure idea.
Mind cure.
Yeah, the belief that illness and misfortune actually originated in the mind from, wrong beliefs. And they could be healed by right thinking and having faith in a sort of universal divine intelligence.
It's very spiritual origins then. Talking about God, divine intelligence.
Definitely. The core tenets were things like God or infinite intelligence is everywhere. The spiritual realm shapes the material one. Humans are inherently divine, and thought aligned with this divinity is powerful.
When did the actual phrase law of attraction pop up?
The first explicit mention seems to be around 1877 by Helena Blavatsky. Then it was developed further by writers like Prentice Mulford. He wrote Thoughts Are Things in 1889.
Thoughts are things.
Right.
Pretty direct.
Very. And then William Walker Atkinson in 1906 wrote Thought Vibration, or the Law of Attraction in the Thought World. He's the one who really introduced the vibration language.
And later authors kept building on this, Wallace Wattles and Napoleon Hill.
Yes, The Science of Getting Rich, Think and Grow Rich. These kept the ideas alive. But the massive global resurgence we see now, that really kicked off with Rhonda Byrne's The Secret.
2006, the film and the book, that was inescapable.
Absolutely. And The Secret brings us to a really crucial point about modern manifesting, the language shift.
How so?
There's been this subtle but very strategic rebranding. The older, explicitly theological language, God, divine intelligence, faith, prayer, it's often been swapped out.
For what?
For more secular sounding, maybe even science-y terms, God often becomes the universe. Faith or prayer becomes vibration alignment or sending out a frequency. Okay. Is that why we hear so much talk about quantum physics and energy connected to manifesting now? It sounds more legitimate.
That's exactly it. They co-opt scientific jargon words like quantum, energy, frequency, vibration to give what is fundamentally a faith-based system this veneer of scientific legitimacy.
Makes sense. That would broaden the appeal, wouldn't it, to people who might be skeptical of traditional religion but still respect science.
Precisely. It's a key part of why it's exploded in popularity, but it's also exactly where our critical scientific analysis really needs to begin.
Yeah.
Because that use of scientific language, it's often where things start to break down under scrutiny.
Right. So speaking of scrutiny, The Secret itself feels like the perfect case study for this modern version of Loewe.
It really is. Sold, what, over 30 million copies? Translated into 50 languages, its impact is undeniable.
And its core claim is straightforward. This universal law of attraction governs everything. Your thoughts directly influence your objective circumstances, money, relationships, health. And how does it make that case? Overwhelmingly through testimonials. Personal stories from various self-proclaimed experts and teachers. Anecdotes are the primary evidence.
Plus specific techniques like gratitude lists, visualization boards.
Yes, focusing on gratitude, detailed visualization. But here's the critical point from a scientific view. The entire foundation is anecdotal evidence and appeals to authority figures within the movement, not rigorous, controlled, empirical data.
Which is a hallmark of
Pseudoscience, relying on stories instead of verifiable, replicable evidence.
And it's not just the type of evidence, it's also how they use or maybe misuse scientific concepts, right? That's another big red flag you mentioned.
A huge one. Proponents constantly claim the principles are grounded in modern science, especially quantum physics. You hear things like thoughts emitting frequencies that interact with the quantum field to attract things.
But actual scientists, what do they say?
They unequivocally reject it. Physicists, like Elisa Randall at Harvard, for example, have been very clear. Quantum mechanics describes the behavior of subatomic particles, the very, very small. It doesn't suggest that human consciousness can influence macroscopic reality in that way.
So the claims are just wrong.
Fundamentally flawed, yes. They'll say like always attracts like, but basic physics shows us that's not universally true. Think about magnets, where opposites attract.
Good point.
They also cite wildly inaccurate numbers for brainwave frequencies, sometimes claiming they're thousands or millions of times higher than the actual measured range, which is typically between 1 and 100 hertz.
Wow. So the whole idea of thoughts being these physical broadcasts that literally bend reality.
It has no basis in established physics or neuroscience. It's a misappropriation of concepts.
So why use the jargon then, if it's incorrect?
To create that veneer of credibility we talked about. It leverages the public's general respect for science to make these metaphysical beliefs seem more plausible, more authoritative. It's a defining feature of pseudoscience, adopting the language of science without adhering to its methods or evidence standards.
It's almost like a formula. You mentioned a pseudoscience formula. Can you unpack that for us? It sounds really useful for spotting this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's quite insightful once you see the pattern. First, they often mix a completely banal, obvious truism. Something like, hey, having a positive attitude is generally beneficial.
Which, okay, most people would agree with.
Right. They mix that with an extraordinary, unproven claim like, and therefore your thoughts literally create your physical reality. The plausible bit lends unearned credibility to the magical bit.
Okay, what's next?
Second, heavy reliance on appeals to authority. They might quote Plato or Shakespeare or Einstein, implying these historical giants believed in Loewe, but usually without any actual historical evidence to back that up.
Got it. Third,
As we've discussed, co-opting scientific jargon completely out of context, using terms like quantum or energy in ways that sound impressive but make no scientific sense.
And the final piece?
The primary evidence is almost always personal anecdotes. It worked for me, or I manifested a parking spot. These stories feel powerful, but scientifically, they're unreliable. They don't account for coincidence, confirmation bias, the placebo effect, all sorts of things.
Okay, so beyond just not being scientifically sound, are there actual downsides, maybe even dangers, to uncritically buying into the law of attraction?
Yes, and this is really important. There are significant psychological and ethical concerns. One of the biggest criticisms is the inherent tendency towards victim blaming.
How so?
Well, if the logic is positive thoughts attract good things, then the flip side is that misfortune, poverty, illness, abuse, even horrific events like genocide or natural disasters must somehow be the result of the victim's failure to maintain positive thoughts or the right vibration.
Oof, that sounds incredibly harmful. It completely ignores systemic issues, chance, other people's actions.
Profoundly harmful, yes. It puts the onus entirely on the individual's mindset, ignoring vast, complex external factors. It can also foster what's called toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity.
Yeah, this relentless pressure to only feel and express positive emotions. It can lead people to suppress genuine, valid negative feelings like sadness, anger, grief, which are actually essential for mental health and processing life's difficulties.
So you just push the negative stuff down because it might attract bad things.
That's the implication. And it can also lead to inaction or magical thinking. If you truly believe the universe will figure out the how, you might be less inclined to do the hard work of actual planning, effort, and problem-solving needed to achieve a goal.
Ironically, some research suggests just fantasizing about goals can make you less motivated, right?
Exactly. Fantasizing can sometimes give you a premature sense of accomplishment, reducing the drive to take real steps. There's even evidence of financial risk. A 2023 study linked strong belief in low A to riskier financial behaviors and higher bankruptcy rates.
Why? Overconfidence.
Likely due to overconfidence, diminished perception of risk, a belief that positive thinking alone will guarantee success. These dangers really highlight why critical examination is so vital for popular but pseudoscientific belief systems.
Okay, so we've established what manifesting claims and why, from a purely scientific standpoint, the law of attraction mechanism just doesn't hold water. But, and this is where it gets really fascinating,
Go on.
the subjective experiences people report when they practice manifesting, feeling more focused, more motivated, noticing opportunities they didn't see before, those feelings are often very real, aren't they? People genuinely feel like something is happening.
Absolutely. The subjective experience is undeniable for many. People do feel shifts. The key question is, what is causing those shifts?
Right. If it's not the universe sending cosmic Amazon packages based on your thoughts, what is going on inside our heads?
This is where we can turn to established neuroscience and psychology. Let's start with the brain's incredible ability to change itself. Neuroplasticity.
The adaptable brain. We used to think it was fixed after childhood, right?
For a long time, yes. The prevailing view is that the adult brain was pretty much hardwired. But decades of research have completely overturned that. Neuroplasticity is the brain's fundamental, lifelong capacity to reorganize its structure, its function, its connections.
In response to what?
In response to everything: experience, learning new skills, our thoughts, our behaviors, even injury. It's constantly adapting.
And the basic principle is often summed up as
Neurons that fire together, wire together. It's a catchy way to put Hebb's rule.
Yeah.
Essentially, every time you have a thought, feel an emotion, perform an action, specific neural pathways activate.
like circuits lighting up.
Exactly. And when you repeatedly activate the same circuit, the connections between those neurons, the synapses, become stronger, more efficient. It becomes easier for that pattern to fire again. It becomes more automatic.
Like wearing a path in the grass.
That's a great analogy. Unused pathways, meanwhile, can weaken over time. That's synaptic pruning. This constant remodeling is the physical basis of learning, memory, and habit formation.
Is there a classic example of this in action?
A fantastic one is the research on London taxi drivers. To get licensed, they have to memorize the knowledge, the incredibly complex layout of London streets.
Which is notoriously difficult.
Extremely. And studies using brain imaging found that experienced London taxi drivers had significantly larger posterior hippocampi, a brain area crucial for spatial memory compared to control groups.
Wow. So their brains physically changed because of the mental effort.
Yes, and the size increase correlated with how long they'd been on the job. It's a clear demonstration of experience-dependent neuroplasticity.
Okay, so how does this connect directly back to manifesting practices like affirmations?
Well, think about repeating an affirmation like, I am confident and capable. From a neuroplasticity perspective, you're not just saying words, you are intentionally and repeatedly activating the neural circuits associated with the feeling and concept of confidence and capability.
So you're strengthening those specific pathways in your brain.
Precisely. With consistent repetition, you are literally reinforcing those connections, making thoughts and feelings of confidence more accessible, more automatic. It's a form of self-directed cognitive training. You're actively reshaping your brain's wiring.
So the change is real, but it's internal. It's neurobiological, not mystical.
Exactly. It's a tangible shift in your internal experience driven by focused mental effort.
Fascinating. Okay, what's another brain mechanism that might explain some of these manifesting experiences?
Let's talk about the reticular activating system, or the RAS. This is a network of neurons located in the brainstem, and it plays a crucial role in regulating arousal and, importantly, selective attention.
Selective attention, like a filter.
Pretty much. Your brain is constantly bombarded with millions of bits of sensory information. Every second, sights, sounds, smells, textures. It's overwhelming. The RAS acts like a gatekeeper or a filter.
Deciding what gets through to our conscious awareness.
Exactly. It filters out what it deems irrelevant noise and allows what's important or relevant to pass through into your conscious attention.
Can you give an everyday example?
Sure. Think about being in a loud, crowded party. You're talking to someone, tuning out all the surrounding chatter. But if someone across the room suddenly says your name...
You hear it instantly.
Right. Your RAS is primed to recognize your name as highly relevant, so it flags it and brings it to your attention immediately, even if it's all the noise.
Or the classic example. You decide you want to buy, say, a red convertible.
And suddenly you see red convertibles everywhere. It feels like they've multiplied overnight.
But they haven't, have they?
No, the number of red convertibles hasn't changed. What has changed is your brain's filter. Your RAS has been primed by your intention, by your focus on red convertibles, so now it flags every single one that enters your sensory field. You're simply noticing what was likely there all along, but previously filtered out.
Okay, I see the connection now. How does this explain the signs or synchronicities people report when manifesting?
Well, a key part of manifesting involves getting crystal clear on your goals, right? Defining precisely what you want to attract.
Yes, visualization, clarity.
From a neurological standpoint, clearly defining that goal is like giving your RAS a new set of filtering instructions. You're telling it, hey, information related to this goal is now highly relevant.
So the RAS goes on high alert for anything related to that goal.
Exactly. It starts actively scanning your environment for matches. As a result, you begin to consciously notice opportunities, resources, people, conversations, even articles or ads related to your goal that were probably always there, but were previously filtered out as irrelevant noise.
So the magic of opportunities suddenly appearing isn't the universe rearranging itself for you.
It's more likely your brain's attention filter becoming highly tuned to perceive opportunities that were already within your environment. The opportunity wasn't sent, your perception of it was enabled.
That shifts the power dynamic completely, doesn't it? From relying on something external to leveraging your own internal focus.
It puts the locus of control back inside you. It's about directing your own attention intentionally.
Okay, neuroplasticity, RAS. What else is going on in the brain? Let's talk about the placebo effect. This one seems hugely relevant.
Hugely relevant. The placebo effect is a well-established, fascinating psychobiological phenomenon. It's where a person experiences real, measurable, physiological or psychological benefits from a treatment that is actually inert, like a sugar pill or a sham procedure.
And it's not just imagining you feel better, right? There are actual biological changes.
Absolutely. This isn't about imagined illness or imagined recovery. It's an active neurobiological process triggered by belief, expectation, and the context surrounding the treatment.
How does it work? What's happening chemically?
Several pathways are involved, but two key ones are the brain's own opioid system and the dopamine system.
The brain's natural painkillers.
Exactly. When you expect pain relief, even from a placebo, your brain can actually release its own endogenous opioids, endorphins. These bind to opioid receptors and genuinely reduce pain perception. Neuroimaging studies show activity changes in pain-modulating brain regions. It's your brain producing its own medication based on belief.
Wow. And dopamine, the reward chemical.
Yes, expectation is powerfully linked to the brain's reward and motivation circuits, which heavily involve dopamine. Believing you're receiving an effective treatment can trigger dopamine release in areas like the nucleus accumbens.
And that has real effects.
Definitely. In Parkinson's patients, placebo effects linked to dopamine release can lead to measurable improvements in motor function. In pain conditions, dopamine release contributes to the feeling of relief and well-being. Expectation literally changes your brain chemistry.
Okay, the connection to manifesting seems obvious here, especially that instruction to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Precisely. Think about what that instruction involves. Cultivating intense positive emotions, unwavering belief, and a strong expectation of achieving the desired outcome. What is that if not a recipe for inducing a powerful placebo response?
You're essentially generating the positive expectation yourself.
Exactly. By focusing intensely on the positive feeling and belief, you are likely activating these endogenous opioid and dopaminergic systems. This produces real, tangible internal changes, improved mood, reduced anxiety, increased motivation, perhaps even physiological shifts related to stress reduction.
And then those very real internal feelings are misinterpreted.
They are often misinterpreted as evidence that something external is happening, that the universe is responding. But the feeling itself is generated internally by the power of belief and expectation acting on your own neurochemistry.
That's a profound difference in interpretation. Okay, one more area you mentioned, psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI. That sounds complex.
It sounds complex, but the core idea is revolutionary. PNI is the scientific field that studies the interactions between your psychological processes, the psycho, your nervous system, the neuro, and your immune system, the immunology.
So mind, brain, and body defenses are all talking to each other. It dismantles that old idea of the mind and body being totally separate.
Completely. PNI demonstrates constant bidirectional communication. Your brain talks to your immune system, and your immune system talks back to your brain.
How does that communication happen?
One major pathway is the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. That's your body's central stress response system. When you experience chronic psychological stress, the HPA axis gets activated, leading to the release of hormones like cortisol.
And cortisol isn't great long term.
In high prolonged doses, it can suppress immune function and promote inflammation. This is one reason why chronic stress is linked to increased susceptibility to illness. Conversely, immune cells release signaling molecules called cytokines, which can travel to the brain and influence mood, causing things like sickness behavior, that feeling tired, withdrawn state when you're ill.
So it goes both ways. How does this relate to positive states, like those cultivated in manifesting?
This is where it gets relevant. Research in PNI suggests that positive psychological states can influence immune function. Things like optimism, self-compassion, and particularly what's called eudaimonic well-being.
Eudaimonic, meaning?
Yeah, a sense of purpose, meaning, and personal growth in life. These states have been linked to lower levels of inflammatory markers in the body, like IL-6 and CRP.
And practices associated with well-being, like mindfulness.
Yes, practices like mindfulness meditation, engaging in altruistic behaviors like volunteering, even simple gratitude journaling. These have been shown in some studies to potentially reduce the expression of genes related to inflammation.
Okay, so this offers a scientific lens for some of the health claims in manifesting, but with important caveats.
Crucial caveats, let's be absolutely clear. Positive thinking cannot cure serious diseases like cancer on its own, nor should it ever replace conventional medical treatment. That's a dangerous misapplication.
Right. Very important distinction.
However, PNI does show us that our mindset, our emotional state, our sense of purpose can meaningfully contribute to our overall physiological state, including immune regulation and inflammation levels.
Nice. So the manifesting practices that focus on cultivating positive emotions, reducing stress, maybe finding a sense of purpose.
These are precisely the kinds of psychological states and practices that PNI research suggests can have beneficial effects on immune function and lower chronic inflammation. So, if someone practicing manifesting experiences genuine improvements in well-being or stress levels, some of that could be rooted in these PNI mechanisms.
And again, those real physiological benefits could easily be misinterpreted as direct manifestation of health from an external source.
Exactly. The cause is internal modulation of the body's systems, influenced by psychological state.
So taking these four areas together, neuroplasticity, the RAS, the placebo effect, and PNI, What picture emerges of the brain?
It paints a picture of the brain not as a passive receiver of information, but as an incredibly active constructor and predictor of our reality. Neuroplasticity is predictive adaptation based on experience. The RAS is a predictive filter based on relevance and goals. The placebo effect is powerfully driven by prediction and expectation.
Our brain is constantly trying to anticipate what's next, based on our beliefs and past experiences.
Precisely. It uses prior beliefs to interpret incoming sensory data and to guide our behavior. Seen through this lens, manifesting techniques, even if not scientifically formulated, can be understood as an intuitive way of trying to interact with this powerful internal predictive system.
Okay, so that covers the neurobiology. But what about the purely psychological factors? Beliefs don't just change brain chemistry, they change behavior, right?
Absolutely. Beyond the neurobiological underpinnings, powerful psychological principles are definitely at play, shaping how our beliefs influence our actions and how we interpret the outcomes.
Let's start with one you hear about a lot. The self-fulfilling prophecy. How does that work?
It's a fascinating concept. Essentially, a self-fulfilling prophecy starts with an initially false belief about a situation or maybe another person, but holding that belief leads the person to act in ways that inadvertently cause the belief to come true.
So your expectation changes your behavior, which then changes the outcome.
Exactly. It's a behavioral causal chain. The classic study, for the listener, is the Rosenthal and Jacobson experiment from 1968. It's quite famous.
Tell us about it.
Researchers told elementary school teachers that certain students, chosen completely at random, were intellectual bloomers, expected to show significant academic gains that year.
Even though there was no real basis for that claim.
None whatsoever. But because the teachers believed these students were special, they unconsciously treated them differently. Maybe gave them more attention, more challenging assignments, more encouragement, warmer feedback.
And the result?
Those randomly chosen students actually did show significantly greater IQ gains compared to their peers by the end of the year. The teachers' expectations created a different environment for them, which led to real changes in performance.
That's powerful. Is there a typical cycle for how this unfolds?
Yeah, you can often see a 5-stage cycle. 1, belief formation, e.g. the student is bright. 2, behavioral adjustment, teacher acts differently towards the student. 3, impact on others' environment, student receives more attention, responds positively. 4, realization of expectation, student performs better. 5, reinforcement of belief, teacher thinks, see, I knew they were bright.
Okay, how does this connect to manifesting's act as if principle?
It provides a direct, evidence-based explanation for it. If you adopt the belief, I am a confident and successful networker, even if it feels false initially, that belief might lead you to change your behavior.
So,
Maybe you start attending more networking events, you push yourself to initiate conversations, you project more confidence, even if faked at first. This altered behavior is more likely to elicit positive responses from others. People engage with you, opportunities arise.
which then makes the initial belief feel more real.
Exactly. Those positive outcomes reinforce the belief, I am a successful networker. The outcome wasn't magically attracted by a vibration. It was largely created by the chain reaction initiated by your belief influencing your actions.
So the manifestation happens through behavior change driven by belief.
Precisely. It's an internal process leading to external action and resulting consequences.
Okay, besides influencing our actions, beliefs also shape how we interpret things, right? Let's talk about cognitive biases.
Yes, cognitive biases are crucial here. These are essentially mental shortcuts or heuristics that our brains use to process information quickly. They're often efficient, but they can also lead to systematic errors in our thinking and judgment.
And they can make manifesting feel like it's working, even if it isn't based on a real external law.
Absolutely. They create a sort of cognitive architecture that makes the perceived success of manifesting seem undeniable to the believer. Let's look at a few key ones.
Go for it.
First, probably the most famous, confirmation bias. This is our tendency to actively seek out, interpret, and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, while simultaneously ignoring or downplaying evidence that contradicts them.
So if you believe you're attracting abundance,
You'll vividly remember finding that $20 bill on the street or getting an unexpected small discount, but you'll conveniently forget all the times you didn't find money, or when expenses popped up, or when opportunities didn't pan out.
yeah,
You selectively focus on the hits that confirm your belief.
makes sense. What else?
Related to that is salience bias, or attentional bias. We tend to focus on things that are prominent, emotionally striking, or somehow stand out, while ignoring less remarkable background information.
So a manifestation success, getting the job you wanted, meeting someone specific, feels incredibly significant and memorable.
Exactly. It's emotionally salient, whereas all the little things you wish for that didn't happen or the background rate of normal occurrences just fade away. This distorts your perception of how often manifesting actually works.
Okay, what about how we explain success and failure?
That brings us to self-serving bias. This is the very common tendency to attribute our successes to internal factors, our own skill, effort, or in this case, my positive mindset, or my high vibration.
But failures.
Failures tend to get attributed to external factors, bad luck, difficult circumstances, or again, within the low A framework, my vibration wasn't quite right that day, or I must have had some hidden blockage.
So it protects your ego and keeps the core belief system safe from challenge.
Precisely. Heads I win because of my manifesting skills. Tails it doesn't count because of some vibrational glitch. Then there's optimism bias.
We tend to think good things are more likely to happen to us than bad things.
Generally, yes. Most people overestimate their likelihood of experiencing positive events and underestimate their risk for negative ones. Manifesting practices, focusing intensely on positive outcomes, can amplify this bias, making an overly optimistic outlook feel like proof that the universe is indeed conspiring in your favor.
And finally, what happens when believers encounter evidence against low A?
That's where belief perseverance and the sometimes related backfire effect come in. Belief perseverance is our tendency to cling to our beliefs even when presented with strong contradictory evidence.
Even when it's totally debunked.
Sometimes, yes, and the backfire effect is even stranger. In some cases, presenting evidence that challenges a deeply held belief can actually make the person strengthen their original belief. It's like the challenge forces them to double down.
Wow. That helps explain why logical arguments or scientific evidence often fail to sway strong believers.
It really does. These biases work together to create this powerful, self-reinforcing psychological loop. They make the law of attraction feel subjectively real and effective, entirely independent of any actual external metaphysical force operating in the universe. The proof is constructed internally through these cognitive filters.
That's quite something. Our brains are basically wired to potentially fool us in this way.
Or perhaps wired to maintain a coherent and consistent view of the world, even if that view isn't perfectly accurate.
Okay, let's compare manifesting techniques like affirmations with established psychological therapies. How does something like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, view affirmations?
That's a great comparison. The CBT is considered a gold standard, evidence-based psychotherapy for many conditions like depression and anxiety. Its core idea is that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all interconnected. Psychological distress often arises from maladaptive or distorted thinking patterns.
And a key technique is
Cognitive restructuring. This involves identifying negative automatic thoughts, critically evaluating the evidence for and against them, and then challenging and reframing those thoughts into more realistic, balanced, and helpful ones.
So how does that differ from just repeating a positive affirmation like, I am successful and happy?
The key difference is the emphasis on evidence testing and realism in CBT. A CBT therapist wouldn't typically tell someone deeply depressed to just repeat, I am wonderful, over and over. Why? Because it might clash so strongly with their current feelings and experiences that it creates cognitive dissonance. It feels like lying to yourself, which can actually make things worse.
So CBT aims for believable change.
Yes, it's about finding balanced thoughts that are grounded in reality, even if they're just slightly less negative to start. Small, believable shifts. Manifesting affirmations, in contrast, are often very global, absolute, I am perfectly healthy, exclusively positive, and detached from any reality testing.
So they might feel inauthentic or just ineffective if the underlying negative belief is very strong.
They certainly can. However, there is an overlap with the act-as-if idea we discussed earlier. CBT uses a technique called behavioral activation.
How does that work?
For instance, a depressed person who believes nothing is enjoyable anymore might be encouraged to schedule and engage in a potentially pleasurable activity anyway as an experiment to test that belief. Sometimes, changing the behavior first can lead to shifts in thoughts and feelings.
So both involve acting in line with a desired state.
Yes, but the framing is critical. CBT frames it as an empirical test, a way to gather evidence and foster cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt your thinking. Manifesting frames act as if, metaphysically, as a way to align your vibration, and it's often based on rigid adherence to an unproven metaphysical claim.
Got it. Okay, let's tackle visualization. Manifesting puts huge emphasis on visualizing your goals. How does that compare to how visualization is used in, say, sports psychology?
Another excellent comparison because visualization is a legitimate, powerful tool when used correctly. In sports psychology, it's a highly structured, evidence-based training technique.
What do athletes visualize?
Crucially, they often focus on process-oriented visualization. They mentally rehearse the specific, sequential steps involved in performing their skill perfectly. A golfer might visualize their entire swing sequence, feeling the muscles engage. A basketball player might visualize the perfect free throw form.
And this actually helps performance. How?
Yes, research shows that detailed mental rehearsal activates many of the same neural pathways in the brain that are involved in the actual physical performance areas, like the motor cortex, cerebellum, basal ganglia. It strengthens the neural blueprint for the skill, improves muscle memory, builds confidence. It needs to be multisensory, detailed, and focused on execution.
Okay, how does manifesting's typical visualization differ?
Manifesting visualization is usually described as being almost exclusively outcome-oriented. You're told to picture the end result, see yourself in the new house, feel the steering wheel of the luxury car, imagine the bank balance.
So let's focus on the how.
Much less, or none at all. The focus is on generating the positive feeling associated with having already achieved the goal. Now, as we discussed with the placebo effect, generating those positive emotions can have benefits boosting mood, motivation.
But is missing the skill-building part.
Exactly. It generally lacks the detailed process rehearsal component that strengthens the neural pathways for the complex behaviors needed to actually achieve those goals. Simply seeing the outcome doesn't wire your brain for the steps required to get there in the same way that process visualization does. Research consistently shows process-oriented imagery is significantly more effective for improving performance and tangible progress.
So visualizing the journey is more effective than just visualizing the destination.
From a skill acquisition and behavioral change perspective, absolutely.
Okay, let's try to synthesize all of this. We've looked at the claims of manifesting and low A, the pseudoscientific aspects, and then these genuine neurobiological and psychological mechanisms. What's the big picture here?
The big picture is that manifesting's appeal lies in a simple, empowering narrative. Your thoughts create your reality. But the magic, the perceived effectiveness, doesn't seem to come from bending the external world through mystical laws.
Instead, it comes from
engaging these powerful internal mechanisms we've been discussing: neuroplasticity, the RAS filter, the placebo effect, psychological biases, self-fulfilling prophecies. The changes are happening inside your head and influencing your perception and behavior.
So the fundamental error of the law of attraction is what? Misattribution.
Exactly. It's a profound misattribution of causality. It takes these very real, often powerful subjective experiences that arise from internal cognitive and neurological shifts, and it incorrectly attributes them to the actions of an external, conscious, responsive universe.
And science basically corrects that attribution.
Science provides a more accurate, evidence-based explanation. It returns the agency, the power, right back to where it demonstrably resides within the individual's own mind, brain, and subsequent actions.
Can we quickly recap that comparison? Claim versus scientific explanation.
Manifesting claim, thoughts become things.
Scientific explanation.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. Belief changes, behavior changes outcome. And cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, you notice what fits your belief. Agency is internal.
Manifesting claim. Visualize your desired outcomes.
Scientific explanation. Sports psychology, visualization, process focus, strengthen skills via neuroplasticity, or placebo effect. Outcome focus generates positive emotion.
Manifesting claim. Daily positive affirmations change your vibration.
Scientific explanation. Cognitive restructuring, like CBT, if realistic, neuroplasticity, repeated activation strengthens pathways. Self-perception theory, we infer attitudes from behavior statements.
Yes.
It's internal cognitive change.
Manifesting claim. The universe provides, you see signs and synchronicities.
Scientific explanation. Your reticular activating system, RAS, primed by clear goals, filters attention. Plus, salience bias makes relevant things pop. It's selective attention.
Manifesting claim. Feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled attracts the outcome.
Scientific explanation. The placebo effect, expectation triggers endogenous opioids, dopamine, changing mood motivation, and maybe PNI effects. The feeling is a result of belief acting internally, not an external cause.
So for pretty much every core low-A claim, there's a more straightforward, evidence-based explanation rooted in how our minds and brains already work.
That's the conclusion the science points towards. The real power isn't in a mystical conversation with the cosmos, but in understanding and perhaps learning to work with our own incredibly powerful neurology and psychology.
Okay, wrapping this deep dive up then.
Hmm.
The big takeaway seems to be that the effects people genuinely feel from manifesting aren't due to some hidden cosmic law. They stem from well-understood mechanisms inside our own heads.
Right. And acknowledging this doesn't dismiss the experiences themselves, the increased motivation, the feeling of focus, the perceived opportunities. It just regrounds them in science. It allows us to reclaim these powerful internal tools from the realm of magical thinking.
So the agent of change isn't a mystical universe. It's the powerful human brain.
Precisely. And understanding that has really practical implications for you, the listener.
How so? What can people do with this knowledge?
Well, understanding these mechanisms gives you access to potentially more effective, safer, and definitely more evidence-grounded strategies for personal growth and achieving your goals.
So instead of just vaguely visualizing the outcome,
You could shift to more structured, process-oriented mental rehearsal like elite athletes use, visualize the steps, the execution. That actually builds the mental blueprint for success in a way outcome-only visualization doesn't.
and instead of simple, maybe unrealistic affirmations.
You could explore techniques from CBT for more realistic cognitive restructuring, challenge negative thoughts based on evidence, build balanced perspectives. That fosters genuine, lasting cognitive change rather than potentially feeling like self-deception.
And recognizing that clear goal setting is really about directing your own RAS.
That empowers you. It means you can take ownership of priming your attention filter to actively seek out and recognize opportunities that are likely already present in your environment. You're not waiting for a sign, you're tuning your own receiver.
What about the placebo effect? Can we consciously use that?
We can certainly leverage the power of expectation and positive mindset for motivation, well-being, and resilience. Understanding the placebo effect allows us to harness that power without falling into the trap of believing mindset alone can override physical reality or replace necessary actions like medical care.
So the scientific framework is almost like a better user's manual for our own minds.
That's a great way to put it. It fosters genuine self-efficacy belief in your own ability to influence outcomes through your actions and focused attention without the significant risks associated with low A, like self-blame, inaction, or magical thinking.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. Consider this. If your brain is already equipped with these incredibly powerful mechanisms to shape your perception of reality, to filter your attention, to influence your motivation and physiology, and to guide your behavior.
Just imagine what you could potentially achieve by consciously and intentionally leveraging these known scientific principles, rather than attributing your successes or failures to an unseen, unproven external force.
Think about a goal you have right now. How might applying this understanding, maybe focusing your attention like directing your RAS, or practicing process visualization, or challenging limiting beliefs with evidence, how might a small shift in your internal approach lead to a real measurable difference in your external world? Something to ponder.
Concierge Care, providing world-class, personalized care for patients and members. Taking a proactive approach by offering its free digital health clinic for anyone in need of these services. Reach out to us via our website, www.health.conciergecare.net, or give us a phone call at 786-809-2345.